Good morning. Let's take our seats. We will begin shortly. If we take our seats, maybe we can begin the day with a moment of silence. To be concrete, 1 minute of silence in prayer. Okay, very well. We have an exciting day ahead today. This first session will have 3 speakers. Each speaker will have 20 minutes to speak. Remember that the question-answer session will be later, the last session of the morning. So you can always keep your questions ready, but we will not have them at the end of this session, but at the last session of the morning. So please keep your questions ready. So today we are going to, this session speaks about the religions that are not explicitly mentioned in Nostra Aetate. How does it feel to be not mentioned explicitly in the Nostra Aetate? So our first speaker for the morning is Professor Jasjit Singh. Is a professor of religion and global engagement at the University of Leeds, England, and Pro Dean International for the Faculty of Arts, Humanities and Cultures. His research focuses on religious transmission, digital religion, and the representation of religious minorities, with a particular emphasis on Sikh diaspora. He co-chairs the Sikh Studies Unit at the American Academy of Religion and has held visiting positions internationally, including at the National University of Singapore. His current work explores the interaction between religion and artificial intelligence. His key publications include Sikh Digital Media and Sikhism and Peace, reflecting his expertise in digital and interfaith engagement. In his address, he will respond to the question of the explicit mention, omission of Sikh in Nostra Aetate. Over to you.
Thank you. Good morning, colleagues. Well done, you all made it for the second day. Many thanks to the Gregorian Centre for Interreligious Studies for the invitation to be here. Many thanks to the Sikh Seva Society for the invitation to represent the community, to present on the question, what does it mean for Sikhs not to be included in Nostra Aetate? Before I continue, speaking to colleagues over the past day or so, I understand that not everyone in the room is aware of who Sikhs are. There aren't many of us in the world. We don't exist in every corner of the globe, so there's a lot I could say, and there are many qualified people in the room who can speak about Sikhs today. But briefly, the vast majority of Sikhs originate from the Punjab region of India. Sikhi was founded by our first Guru, Guru Nanak Dev Ji, in 1469. Sikhi is not an offshoot or combination of anything. It's a distinct Dharam, and I'm using the word Dharam here to indicate a lived experience of ethical action, spiritual remembrance, and collective responsibility. And as you'll know, I'm using the term Sikhi rather than Sikhism, or Sikhismo in Italian, and this is an important distinction. While the Oxford English Dictionary defines Sikhism as a noun, as a monotheistic religion founded in Punjab in the 15th century by Guru Nanak, and it defines Sikhs, again, noun, as adherents of Sikhism, Sikhs themselves use the word Sikhi as a verb to refer to an active process of learning and developing through lived experience. So this is an important distinction between a noun, something that's fixed, versus a verb, which is something you actually do. And again, I think it's important for us to try and use emic, to use in tradition terms where we can, to fully understand these terms rather than try and translate terms from various other traditions, because something's always lost in translation. There are approximately 25 to 30 million Sikhs worldwide, most of whom live in India, particularly in the Punjab region of India in the north. And around 10% of Sikhs live outside India, with the largest populations in Canada, the UK, the US, here in Italy, Australasia, Southeast Asia, and East Africa. That's the short religious education lesson done, but as I say, if anybody wants to speak to any of us afterwards, please do. So, as we've heard, the issuing of Nostra Aetate in 1965 changed the tone of Catholic engagement with other religions. As we've heard, the document included references to Hinduism, Buddhism, and Islam, and devoted a section to Judaism. It did not include Sikhs. This omission can be explained by the fact that in the mid-20th century, Sikhs were not widely known in Europe, and there was virtually no Sikh presence in Italy, or in the Vatican's immediate sphere of engagement. This omission, therefore, was more a matter of limited awareness and demographic presence, rather than deliberate exclusion. So what does it mean for Sikhs not to be included, and what are the consequences of this omission? Since the Second Vatican Council, Catholics and Sikhs have met regularly and learn together. As a professor of religion and global engagement, as a sociologist of religion who studies Sikhs worldwide and who researches the representation of Sikhs in media and policy, I wish to reflect on that journey and on what comes next. So in this presentation, I will firstly highlight examples of Catholic-Sikh engagement and explore commonalities in Sikh and Catholic teachings. Secondly, I'll explore the situation of Sikhs in Italy, where a vibrant and hard-working community contributes significantly to Italian society, yet remain without formal recognition. And thirdly, I'll explain why including Sikhs in Nostra Aetate matters now. So firstly, Catholic-Sikh encounters since 1965. Despite the omission of Sikhs from Nostra Aetate in 1965, the years since tell a story of growing friendship and engagement. Over the past 6 decades, Catholics and Sikhs have met and learned together in ways that deserve to be officially recognized. On the 2nd of February 1986 in New Delhi, Pope John Paul II met leaders of India's faith traditions, including Sikhs. In the same year, on the 27th of October 1986 in Assisi, Pope John Paul II invited members of the world religions, again including Sikhs, to pray for peace. On the 25th of September 2015, in New York, Sikhs joined Pope Francis at the multi-religious service at Ground Zero, where the Pope prayed for peace at a site marked by religiously framed violence. This sent a quiet but important message. Sikhs are part of the public conversation on peace. And this message was important, particularly with Sikhs being one of the communities most affected by hate crimes in the post-9/11 context. On the 4th of October 2021, a Sikh environmental leader, Dr. Rajwant Singh, joined 40 faith leaders at the Vatican for Faith and Science, an appeal for COP26. And again, Sikhs were part of a global movement convened by the Holy See. On the 11th of November 2023, Pope Francis received a Sikh delegation from a Gurdwara in Dubai, which I visited over summer, and I saw a photograph of the Sikh delegation with Pope Francis being displayed prominently among photos of other dignitaries. This display is a sign of mutual respect. It also shows how the Vatican functions within the Sikh imagination, not just a religious institution, but as a symbol of global interfaith dialogue. This perception is not new. Among Sikhs, there's a long-standing narrative that the first Guru, Guru Nanak Dev Ji, visited the Vatican and met Pope Leo X. Though historians have not found archival evidence to confirm this, and I'm hoping to visit the archives on Thursday, the story still persists. Not necessarily as a claim of fact, but as a reflection of how the Vatican is imagined, not as a distant institution, but as a house of dialogue. But there are examples of Catholic-Sikh engagement which I'd like to emphasize in particular. Firstly, the Catholic Church, through the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue, now the Dicastery for Interreligious Dialogue, has issued annual messages to Sikhs for Vaisakhi since 1999, and now also issues annual messages for Guru Nanak Dev Ji's Gurpurab, or birth anniversary. These messages matter because they make Sikhs visible in the Vatican's annual rhythm. Indeed, many of us Sikhs received a message last week for the upcoming Gurpurab of Guru Nanak Dev Ji on the 5th of November, which I'd like to thank the Dicastery for. So we can conclude from this that although Sikhs are not officially recognized in Nostra Aetate, we are unofficially recognized. So we're either unofficially official or we're officially unofficial. And I think it's time we cleared up that confusion. Secondly, one reason that Sikhs are recognized at all is thanks to the work of Baisal Minder Singh, who's the chair of the Guru Nanak Nishkam Sevak Jatha in Birmingham, who's here with us today. Baisal Ji, if you could just make yourself known to the audience. Baisal Ji sat here at the front. Thank you so much. Baisal Ji's engagement with the Catholic Church spans decades and reflects a deep commitment to interfaith dialogue. In May 2000, Baisal Ji in the Jatha of Vikal Takat, the most significant chair for Sikhs worldwide, led a delegation to meet Pope John Paul II during the Christian Year of Jubilation. Pope John Paul was presented with the Sword of Peace, inscribed with blessings commemorating the Holy Christian Jubilation Year and the Sikh tricentenary celebrations of the birth of the Khalsa. In 2002, Baisal Ji joined Pope John Paul II and other faith leaders at the World Day of Prayer for Peace in Assisi. In 2006, he met Cardinal Paul Popard, the then president of the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue, to explore ways of making Catholic-Sikh dialogue more permanent. But historical milestone occurred on the 22nd of April 2012 at St. Chad's Cathedral in Birmingham in the UK, when Baisal Ji became the first Sikh ever to receive the papal knighthood, the papal order of St. Gregory the Great, one of the highest honors in the Catholic Church, for his work in building Catholic-Sikh relations. The celebrations included Sikh and Catholic Thanksgiving in one place. And more recently, in May 2025, both Baisal Ji and the Sikhi Seva Society attended the inauguration of Pope Leo XIV. Indeed, the Sikhi Seva Society organized the first Sikh Christian conference in Italy in 2018 in Novalara, in conjunction with the Diocese of Reggio Emilia, which included Catholic clergy. And again in 2019, the Sikhi Seva Society organized an interreligious conference in Rome to celebrate the 550th Gurpurab of Guru Nanak Dev Ji. And put together, all of these moments show a real pattern that after the Council in 1965, Catholics and Sikhs have been regularly meeting and learning together. Indeed, Sikh and Catholic traditions share a deeply rooted moral language expressed through lived practices. Both Sikhs and Catholic teachings call believers to transcend self-interest, Sikhi through seva, the discipline of selfless service, and Catholicism through caritas, the love that becomes action, revealing a shared vision expressed in care for others. Similarly, the Sikh aspiration for Sarbat Bala, the welfare of all, aligns with the call for fraternity in Fratelli Tutti as expressed by Pope Francis. These parallels translate into practical synergies, making Sikh-Catholic collaboration feel natural in schools, community spaces, and in civic life. So why does including Sikh in Nostra Aetate matter? Italy is one of the largest Sikh populations in Europe, estimated to be around 250,000 Sikhs, around 0.3% of the total Italian population. Sikhs now live across Italy from the north to the south, and Sikhs across Italy and Sikhs in general are always ready to travel long distances to further interreligious dialogue. Thousands of Sikh soldiers died for the liberation of Italy in World War II, and it's now possible to find the names of Sikh soldiers across war memorials in Italy, including at Torino de Sangro and at the 40 War Memorial. There are currently approximately 75 Gurdwaras in Italy, with the second largest Gurdwara in Europe being here in Italy, the Gurdwara Singh Sabha in Novellaro. While Sikhs are now employed in many different industries in Italy, numerous media reports have highlighted how Sikh workers have become essential to the production of Parmesan cheese. I know, it's quite surprising. It's a story I tell all my students all the time. Google it and you'll find a lot more detail, but it's a significant aspect of the Sikh Italian experience. And a local mayor once remarked that Sikhs had saved an economy as younger Italians moved away from Parmesan production. However, this is not a romanticized narrative. It reflects the reality of early mornings, double milking shifts, and 7-day working weeks. Diplomatic gestures reflect this reality. In April 2023, the Italian ambassador and the EU ambassador to India paid respects at Sri Harmandir Sahib, the Golden Temple, in India, and publicly praised the Sikh contribution to Europe. These gestures show that recognition is not just symbolic, it makes sense morally and practically. And as many of you will know, in Italy, formal recognition of a religion comes through an agreement with the Italian state called an intesa. This is a legal agreement available to non-Catholic religions under Article 8.3 of the Constitution between the Italian state and a religious community. And the details are technical, but the benefits are clear. It gives a community a stable legal status, so cooperation with schools, hospitals, and local authorities is easier. It ensures equal treatment alongside other recognized faiths, and it can unlock access to public funds for worship and charitable work, just as other recognized religions receive. Many non-Catholic religions already have an intesa, including Jews, Hindus, and Buddhists. Sikhs, despite their decades of presence in Italy, despite their significant contribution to Italy, including in the production of Parmesan cheese, do not. So Sikhismo is not officially recognized by the Italian state. I'll just say that again. Sikhismo is not officially recognized by the Italian state. Sikhs in Italy have, of course, sought recognition. In 2012, the Ministry of the Interior rejected their application, citing concerns over the Gurban, the sword, which is one of the 5 Ks carried by Ummatdari Sikhs. This position was again reinforced in 2017 when the Italian Supreme Court ruled, and I quote, "It is essential for the immigrant to conform his values to those of the Western world into which he has freely decided to incorporate himself." Problematic gendered language aside, what about those Sikh Italians who did not migrate to Italy but were born and grew up here? The next generation of new Italians who, unlike their parents, did not freely decide to incorporate themselves into a new country. And on the values point, this is where Catholicism offers a strong bridge with Sikhs. Of all the world religions, Catholicism may best appreciate the Sikh symbolism of the sword. The Catholic Church ritualizes the sword not as a weapon of aggression, but as a solemn sign of service and justice. Historical rites of Catholic knighthood include the blessing of a sword as a sign to guard justice. Indeed, none of the 4 holy popes that Bishop G is engaged with, Pope John Paul II, Pope Benedict XVI, Pope Francis, and Pope Leo XIV, have objected to his carrying of the Gurban. In both traditions, the sword is not a weapon of aggression, but a sacred sign of duty, protection, and moral responsibility. Catholic rites, such as the Benedicto Armorum, the blessing of arms, date back to the 10th century. These emphasize the sword as a guardian of justice, echoing the Sikh Gurban's role as a symbol of sacrifice, self-restraint, duty, and the defense of the vulnerable. It is not a license to harm. It is part of the responsibility which all Ummatdari Sikhs have to uphold the right to religious freedom for all. This shared moral language can help Italians understand what the Gurban means to Sikhs, a sacrament of responsibility. This understanding can challenge fears and open the door to practical, lawful solutions. So why should Sikhs be included in Nostra Aetate? Including Sikhs now would not only honor a friendship that already exists, it would help create the conditions for deeper trust, better cooperation, and stronger social cohesion. For Sikhs being included in Nostra Aetate through an addendum anniversary reflection, possibly through a formal Catholic-Sikh dialogue commission, through inclusion in Vatican educational materials, would bring several benefits. It would make Sikhs an official part of the global Catholic dialogue framework, which is ongoing since the start of the century, ensuring that they are not overlooked in education and formation. It would affirm that Sikhs are recognized partners in interreligious engagement, not just locally, but worldwide. In countries where legal recognition is still pending, particularly in Italy, inclusion in Catholic teaching would strengthen the case for fairness and equal treatment. It would increase understanding. It would strengthen mutual understanding, showing Sikhs that the values of sacrifice, service, equality, and the care for all are respected, while offering Catholics an opportunity to deepen dialogue and embody their own commitment to solidarity and justice. This is why including Sikhs in Nostra Aetate matters now more than ever. Words in official documents have real consequences. When a community is named in the foundational text, it becomes part of the official conversation, part of the school curricula, pastoral guidelines, and interfaith resources. It signals to the billions of Catholics worldwide, this community matters, learn about them, engage with them. Conclusion. 60 years after Nostra Aetate, the Catholic Church rightly celebrates its progress in opening doors to dialogue. But anniversaries are not only for reflection, they are for renewal. For Sikhs, the question is, what changes when we are explicitly acknowledged? It means shared values are strengthened, trust is deepened, and new opportunities for collaboration in education, community life, and civic engagement are allowed to develop. Including Sikhs would make them visible in formation, affirm them as partners in global dialogue, and in places like Italy, bolster the case for fairness and formal recognition. After Vatican II, the Church learned to speak of other religions with respect. Now, at Nostra Aetate's 60th anniversary, we can widen the circle. Naming Sikhs honors an existing friendship and builds the trust our world urgently needs. It affirms a shared moral language. Both traditions bless the sword as a symbol of service and protection, and both uphold religious freedom for all. Sikhs have long built bridges between communities and are here to continue to do so. The Sikhs of Italy, all of us, are here to contribute to dialogue that deepens interfaith relations through awareness raising, engagement, presentations in schools and universities, and Gurdwara visits, because this work is about shared values, friendship, justice, and humanity. In an age where the forces of darkness are rising, dialogue and cooperation are moral imperatives. We must choose solidarity over silence, courage over comfort, and shared humanity over division. The time for passive hope is over. Our future depends on collaboration and inclusion. Including Sikhs in Nostra Aetate would not just correct an omission, it would send a global message that dialogue is expansive, not exclusive. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Professor Jasjit, for this insightful intervention and also posing important challenges. He has addressed the issue of why it is important to recognize the Sikhs in the Nostra Aetate, which will bring a lot of benefits, also recognize the shared values that he highlighted, and also improve the dialogue between the two religions. Thank you once again. Next speaker for today is Professor John Lagerwey, and he is the director of the Ricci Institute, Faculté Loyola of Paris. He is a specialist of the native Chinese Taoist religion. His publications include China, a Religious State, and Paradigm Shifts in Early Modern Chinese Religion. He also has done extensive fieldwork in China, fruit of which will be his upcoming publication, Ethnography of an Enchanted Land. He has taught the history of Chinese religions at École Pratique des Hautes Études de Paris and the Chinese University of Hong Kong. He will speak on the topic of harmony as a virtue in Christianity and Taoism. Over to you, Professor John.
Thank you. I'd like to begin by thanking Professor Bongiovanni for inviting me and all the secretaries who have helped to make this organization so smooth. I'm very grateful to you. Grateful also to the Dicastery of Interreligious Dialogue, who, starting last year, invited me to participate in a budding dialogue with Taoism, a religion which has been neglected since the 16th century when the first Jesuit mission decided that it was a form of superstition and not a religion. So I'm going to begin with the Jewish prayer, L'Éternel est notre Dieu, l'Éternel est un. This comes from the Shema Israel, listen Israel, the Lord our God is one, his name will be one. The reason that I decide to start with that, you will see in the course of my presentation. Just as all biblical religion is intensely historical, Taoism is determinedly cosmic. The Tao is a living, breathing cosmos, and as it is everywhere, it's qi. Its breath is literally the breath of respiration and self-cultivation practices. To be a Taoist is to cling to the Tao as to one's mother, and to seek to embody the Tao by harmonizing the two potentially polarizing forces of yin and yang. Note that. Its rituals are one major expression of the Chinese conviction that heaven and humans must be united as one. Tianren He. In Taoism, one reaches this state by receiving the precepts that teach one how to embrace the one by worshiping the Tao and practicing perfection. And a short quotation from an article by Julien Darmon. A degree of disharmony was introduced by Adam's sin, most frequently conceived as separation between Tiferet and Malkut, male and female within God. The task of all humans is to restore the original harmony through ritual and moral activity. Just a couple of very quick citations. The first one is from about the 3rd century BC and shows a general religious attitude in China that covers all Chinese, not just Taoism. Once one communicates with heaven, then one can move the nature of wood, water, and stone. And then a phrase from Confucius himself, when he's challenged about his behavior, he says, heaven produced the virtue that is in me. Huan Tui, what can he do to me? In other words, he had no fear of political power because he knew that he was acting in concert with heaven. The basic values of Taoism are found in the Laozi, whose regular recitation was obligatory in the early Taoist church. These values may be summarized as follows. The Tao, which is invisible, inaudible, and intangible, is the origin of all things. It is capable of being the mother of the world. The sage embodiment of the Tao knows that nothing is more important than embracing the one and preserving the priceless piece of jade within. This means returning constantly to the Tao Mother and, like water and the feminine, taking the lower place, being receptive, and so benefiting all, but claiming no merit. Just a couple of citations from the Laozi, the Tao Te Ching. First chapter, probably the most famous, the way that can be spoken of is not the constant way. The name that can be named is not the constant name, and it continues along that line. We don't have the time to read the whole thing. But the two are the same, even though they diverge in name as they issue forth. Being the same, they are called mysteries, mystery upon mystery, the gateway of the manifold secrets. And another famous passage from that same book, there is a thing confusedly formed, born before heaven and earth, note that, born before heaven and earth, silent and void. It stands alone and does not change, goes round and does not weary. It is capable of being the mother of the world. I know not its name, so I style it the way. A series of citations that you can go back to. I've just put in bold the absolutely essential aspects of them, all taken from the Laozi. The sage benefits them, yet exacts that people, yet exacts no gratitude. I alone am different from the others and value being fed by the mother. In the union of the world, the female always gets the better of the male by stillness. Highest good is like water. The sage embraces the one and is a model for the empire. Embracing the one. Harmony is defined, as we just saw, heaven and humans united as one, and in the Taoist context, as uniting our perfection to the perfection of the Tao. We could translate in different ways. Both expressions imply a gap, which is also a goal. A famous saying in the I Ching states, one yin and one yang, that is what we call the Tao. Thus, the Tao manifests itself in two forms, one usually associated with the female and the earth, the other with the male and heaven. Harmony is the result of keeping the two poles of yin and yang. Now you see why I quoted from the Kabbalah tradition just a moment ago. Harmony is the result of keeping the two poles, yin and yang, in balance and mutually benefiting each other. One expression of this is the annual cycle of the year. Another one is one of priority and superiority of heaven over earth. So this heaven-earth, I don't know whether, nonetheless, the capacity of heaven does not allow it to stand out as one. So here we come back to what is the one. Because it is from the start correlated. To heaven corresponds the earth. To the initiating capacity of the one responds the receptive capacity of the other. So you cannot have the one without the other, as we will see in a moment. So this heaven-earth, and this is in fact the way the Chinese say universe. They don't say universe, they say biverse, that is tiandi. This creates a space for us humans to occupy. And there's a very famous concept in Chinese, sancai, the three capacities, that refers to the humans as the third and the synthetic synthesis of the heaven and the earth. There are so many expressions of three as one that early Jesuit missionaries saw it as proof the ancient Chinese knew of the Trinity. They based themselves for this idea principally on chapter 42, which you will retain because we will see it in ritual practice in a moment. The way begets one. One begets two, two begets three begets the myriad creatures. The myriad creatures carry on their backs the yin and embrace in their arms the yang, and are the blending of the generative forces of the two. Here, the one corresponds to heaven, and yang, the two to earth and yin, and the three to humans. In Chinese say, 万物之内最灵, that is to say, the most spiritual among the 10,000 things. The human being, by virtue of its head round like heaven and its feet square or flat like earth, is in fact a microcosmic version of the macrocosm with its center in the heart. A proto-Taoist text from the 3rd century BCE says that where the heart is calm and the vital energy ordered, the way can stay. The heart in both Chinese and biblical culture is the center of the human being, the place where reason and emotion, order and inspiration meet and mingle. In sharp contrast with the essentialism of Greek philosophy, anthropos in both biblical and Chinese culture is the whole person, a living soul, whose heart is the site of decision for good or for bad, for life or for death. And one thinks here of Moses' final statement to the people of Israel. And you have here a citation about the difference between the Tao and the deviant. And it comes down to, like, listen, Israel, obey the precepts, exactly the same. So the Tao is life and deviance, death. The dead belong to earth, the living to heaven. That is how far apart they are. In keeping with China's polytheistic religious environment, the Taoist body contains a multitude of energies, and these can lead humans astray if they do not use them to nourish life and work to become perfect by embracing unity. Lao Tzu therefore says that the sage is for the belly, not for the eye, and people are enjoined to block the openings, that is to say the senses, and shut the windows, that is focus on their inner life, not on external distractions. The Lao Tzu has a whole series of recommendations as to how to embrace unity, most of which consist in returning, fan, to the uncarved wooden block or the state of the newborn. The newborn values feeding on the mother, that is, the Tao. A text of the 2nd century, I don't want to go into it in great detail here because it's fairly complicated, but you'll notice that the person who follows the primary god, Lao Jin, or Lao Tzu divinized, seeks to embody Tidao to embody the body of the macrocosmic body of Laojun, who is identified with the Tao, and also concentrates his thought, therefore, on the cinnabar field in the lower belly, on the purple chamber of the Great One, which refers to the polar star in the center of the Chinese heaven. Another early 3rd century commentary explains, the One is the Tao, which has established the precepts. The sage, through practicing the precepts, embraces the One. And the rest of the citation takes this main god Laojun, or the Lord Lao, who is, like I say, the divinization of Laozi, the philosopher, and shows him as this cosmic respiration that I referred to a moment ago. We're going to skip all these because I don't think we have time for them, but that was an aside about the Tai, the Great One, who is associated with the polar star. And I want to just show you concretely how this returning to the One is acted out and depicted in the Lingbao ritual that became the core liturgical tradition from the late 6th century, meaning that going in audience before the origin, the One, the Tao, became the best summary of Taoist ritual. And we're going to start with a temple which you can all visit. It's in Shanxi province. It was built in the early 15th century by the same emperor who built the Forbidden City of Beijing. And its walls are completely covered with murals, and that's what we're going to look very quickly at. So imagine yourself entering and first turning to the left, which actually means you're turning to the right, because all space in China is facing south. Even if it's not facing south, it's theoretically facing south, just like Christian churches theoretically face east. So face south, and that is why, because we're in the northern hemisphere, and when you face south, you receive the benefit of the sun, and you turn your back on the yin, on the cold. And so when you enter this space, you have on the left, but actually the right from the point of view of those who preside, whom we'll meet in a moment. And you see here I don't know whether you can point it out, but on the left you see a figure, and if you look down below, you can see a tiger, okay? The tiger is the symbolic animal of the West, the setting sun. And if you go to the right, when you enter the space, you see another military figure. Why? Because they're gate guardians. Every Chinese house had gate guardians, and so do the temples. So there's the dragon who represents the east. And so you can see a dragon underneath his feet. Then on the east and west walls, so heading towards the north side, which is the noble side. Why? Because that's the center of heaven. So you're heading towards the north, which is the center of heaven. On both the east and the west walls, you have first a seated empress and then a seated emperor, all of them who are, of course, here you see the emperor way on the left of the photo. And as you go farther up, you have two seated emperors facing each other on either side of the center. But I want you to take a quick look at it again. I wish I could point at it, but right up there, if you look closely, you see some one with massive hairdo. Well, there he looks a bit closer, and this is an image that shows tantric influence on Buddhism from the 12th, 13th century on. And so you here have, right at the angle, the northeast and the northwest angle, that are just before you enter the most sacred part of this sacred space. So you have new gate guardians, two on either side, who prevent negative forces from entering into the most, you might say, the holy of holies of the Taoist sacred space. And then on the north side, you have, once again, two divinities, one who represents the long life, and another one who also represents long life, but is associated with the southern pole, which is, and then, well, there's just a close-up of these two standing emperors facing in now towards, on the north side of the space already, facing towards the center. And then we have, just behind them, a divinity that appears in the 4th, 5th century of our era, and is copied actually on the Avalokiteshvara, who is the god, or becomes later the goddess of mercy in China. And this is Joku Tenzun, that is the heavenly worthy who saves from distress and becomes the god who presides over all Taoist rituals for the dead until this day. So saving from suffering refers to these rituals for saving the dead. And finally, you arrive at the end of the circuit, converging on the three pure ones. And what we have here in the middle is the pure chi, the pure breaths that are the origin of heaven. To his left, so to our right, you have the pure origin of earth. And finally, on our left, their right, number 3, you have Lao Jun, the divinized philosopher Lao Tzu, that we talked about already. And it is to him that they address themselves when they send their petitions, usually written petitions. So here we see what it is to converge this entire sacred space defined by, most of them I didn't point it out, but are represented as officials in the court of these three pure ones, as opposed to the court of the Son of Heaven, the Emperor. And now, very quickly, we're going to see the same process of this convergence on the three pure ones in the context of Taoist ritual, as you can still see it in China, but above all, the pictures that you'll see now, I hope, come from Taiwan. Okay, it doesn't matter. What you can see here is a picture of the word for gate. And beyond the gate, there are these portraits of the three pure ones that we just referred to. And you can see down at the bottom, below the character itself, you can see a Taoist in a red robe. Red is yang. And he's seated and presenting a petition, written petition, that has to go through this gate to address the three pure ones. Anyway, this is the first of the three pure ones. He's blue because blue is, again, the color of the East. So this is the pure representation of pure, and red is the South. This is the pure origin of Earth. And then finally here is Lao Tzu, and you see that he has a long white beard because the story told is that he was in his mother in gestation for 81 years and finally was born already an old infant. An old infant, in fact, describes the process to becoming a perfected individual. And now we're going to see that Lao Tzu 42, the Tao begets the one begets the two, and so on. We're going to see it played out in the ritual. The priests turn off all the lights and all the candles. They go outside and light a single torch, come back inside, light 3 candles, you guessed it, for each of the three pure ones. And the Taoist, one of the Taoists will bring up to song and incantations, will bring a candle. I'll be done in less than 3 minutes. Brings a candle to each of the three pure ones, first heaven, earth, and finally. And I say the best way to summarize Chinese thought is that precisely that 1 plus 2, that is, say, heaven plus earth equals 3. That is to say, the human being who is the microcosmic representation of the macrocosm. And all of this is incorporated into the ritual, which is illustrating what it is to give cult to the Tao, which is the origin and the end of all things. Well, you've seen the main part of it. Otherwise, there was yet a picture of the Taoists after they've done the ritual on the inside. They go back out and they do the same ritual on the outside, but wearing different and more colorful robes, because this is, you might say, a theatrical representation of the same image of going to heaven, but this is for the people. So they've done the real ritual. Like I say, the sage is for the belly, not for the outside. So the internal versus the external ritual, they repeat it. And then the final slide was of the image, a 13th century image of a mountain. And the mountain is also an image of the macrocosm. And so you can find that same word for the gate to heaven that, well, if this is the mountain, in fact, there's a text from the 5th century which says the body is a mountain, or the mountain is a body. And so you can find that gate right there at the heart. So that, in a nutshell, is the values of Taoism as expressed in their representation of sacred space and in the ritual representations. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor John, for, I would say, a very mystical discourse through images. Sorry for the failure of the images. But the question of returning to the one as a principle of harmony, that was very insightful, and how it opens doors for further dialogue between Christianity and Taoism. Our next speaker for today is Samani Amal Pragna. He is an associate professor at Jain Vaishnava Bharati Institute, deemed University, Ladnum, Rajasthan, India. She has done her PhD on impact of Preksha meditation on dispositional forgiveness with a specialization in Jainism, comparative religion, and philosophy. She is also qualified for UGC NET and earned her master's degree in the same field. She has over 15 years of experience in teaching and research. Her forgiveness scale, an article, has been published by National Psychological Corporation of Agra, Delhi. Actively engaged in conferences, workshops, and meditation camps, she has also delivered lectures in India and abroad, including the USA, UK, UAE, Singapore, and Nepal. Her intervention today is titled Revisiting Nostra Aetate Through the Lens of Jainism. Over to you, Samani.
Respected Chairperson, speakers, and all my dear friends, I'm delighted here to present my thoughts regarding revisiting Nostra Aetate through the lens of Jainism. Yesterday, we have a very good sessions on the history of Nostra Aetate, and we have learned this declaration from the different perspective. Today, I'm here to present through the lens of Jainism. Yesterday, we have discussed a lot of things, and I want to just say that the Catholic Church officially articulated a positive and respectful approach toward non-Christian religions. And in today's world, in 2025, as the world marks the 60th anniversary of Nostra Aetate, the declaration continues to be a touchstone for interreligious dialogue and cooperation. In this context, it is meaningful to revisit Nostra Aetate not only from Christian perspective, but also through the lens of Jainism that can both resonate with and enrich its message. The Jain religion is one of the ancient religion, and it was started by the Lord Rishabh, the first Tirthankar and Jain Bhagwan, and the last was Lord Mahavira. The religion, Jainism, the meaning of Jainism is that it's come from the word jinn. And jinn means that, the etymological meaning of jinn is that a person who have renounced, who have beyond the attachment and aversion, he is called as a jinn. And the followers of jinn, they are called as Jain. And those who are following the teachings of Jain Bhagwan, they are called as a Jain persons. So this is one of the ancient religion, and today whatever we are getting, the scriptures of Jainism, they are all due to the 24th Tirthankara, that is Lord Mahavira, and we are following the teachings of that Tirthankara. So today I'm here to present the Nostra Aetate through the lens of Jainism, and today I will consist myself through the core principles of Jainism, the 3 core principles today I will discuss here. And these 3 core principles are non-violence, anekantvad, that is multiplicity of viewpoints, and aparigraha, non-possession. I will discuss these 3 concepts, core principles of Jainism, that can help, that can bring a big change in this world. These core principles, if we understand the meaning of it, if we can understand the heart of these principles, then we can bring a big change in individual life and as well as in global level. Before going to the first perspective, first core principle, that is non-violence, it is necessary to understand the violence. What is violence? And today, at a global scenario, just I want to give a little bit glance on this today's scenario of violence. The early 21st century marks one of the most violent eras in the modern history. Despite major advances in science, technology, and human rights, today still we are lacking peace. And this is the statistics regarding global conflict. I'm giving a very fast glance on it. 61 active state-based conflicts across 36 countries in 2024, the highest since 1946. Conflict-related deaths increased by 40%, reaching 48,384 fatalities in a single year. Child deaths rose by 337% and female deaths by 258% between 2021 to 2024. Over 41,000 grave violations, it includes killings, abductions, sexual violence, attacks on schools, hospitals, they all against children were verified, a 25% increase from the previous year. So these are just a part of a physical violence, but there is another side of violence that is different form of violence. We can say that environmental degradation is also a part of violence. And these are the alarming facts of these environmental degradation, that nearly 700 million people lives on less than 2.15 per day dollar. So these are the alarming facts that we are suffering from, and this is the part of environmental degradation, which includes the violence. So from the Jain perspective, violence seen in this modern world, it reflects that why we are doing this kind of violence, because we are not adopting the non-violence concept in our life. And it is not, non-violence is not necessary for personal life, it is also necessary for moral and spiritual development. So in Jainism, the word violence, the word hinsa, is described as an act of causing harm, directly or indirectly, physically or emotionally, to any living being. And it extends beyond physical aggression to include mental hostility, harsh speech, economic exploitation, and environmental harm. So these are the part of violence that explains by the Jainism. So the heart of non-violence in Jainism, it is said that Tirthankar Mahavir, the fourth, that is 24th Tirthankara, about 2,500 years ago, teach that all living beings, even the smallest creatures, cherish their lives, and as a rational beings, we have no right to take their lives. We should show compassion toward all living beings, and it is in Avashyak Sutra. It is said that mitti me sabba bhuvesu. We should have a compassion toward all beings. It's not with the human beings, with each creature. We must have a feeling of compassion and feeling of cooperation to all the living beings. So that is the main thing. It's not that we have to avoid only physical violence. We have to avoid mental and emotional violence, and we have to keep the feeling of cooperation and compassion towards all beings. And this is also explained in one of the Jain scripture named as the Dasvaikalik Sutra. It is one of the Agam, there are 32 scriptures in Jainism which includes the teachings of Lord Mahavira, and one of them is Dasvaikalik Sutra. And it is said in Prakrit that Atta Same Mannijja Chappikai. It means that one should see all forms of life, whether it is one sense being, two sense being, or it's a five sense being. For all sense beings, we should feel them. We should treat them as equal as our own self. We should have a capacity for life and suffering. We should equally treat them for their life. As we want life, they too want life. As we don't like suffering, they too don't want like suffering. And this is a speciality of Jainism, that they have not included they have not said about having a compassion towards only a five sense being. As I already said, that when we are talking about environmental degradation, in that, why we are doing that violence? Because that includes the violence of one sense being, whether it is plants, whether it is air-bodied beings, water-bodied beings, fire-bodied beings. We are harming that beings, and that includes the violence, and that is the violence of one sense being. And that's why it is said that we should have an equal feeling to all sense beings. In Acharang Bhashya, this is one of the scripture, and it is in Prakrit, it is said that tam se ahiyaye, tam se abohiye. The one is non-violent, that one is wise. It is said that, like, just we can understand this aphorism by a small example. Like, there are two persons. The one person, he is very intelligent. He has a knowledge of all the scriptures. He is very excellent in speaking. But in his practical life, he is not compassionate. He is very rude to everyone. We will not like that person. And the other person he's very humble in nature. He don't have too much knowledge about scriptures, but he's very humble in nature. He's talking very softly with everyone. So that person, we will call him as a non-violent person, and he will be called as a wise person. So those persons who are following non-violence in their practical life, they will be called as a wise person. Another aphorism in Acharang Bhashya, it is said that Je loyam abhikhai te attanam abhikhai. Je attanam abhikhai, je loyam abhikhai. It means that one who perceives the world with understanding perceives himself, and the one who truly perceives himself perceives the world. It means that, for example, there is a person who have a feeling of greed, that I want money, I want more property, I want more luxurious life. If a person have a greediness in his thoughts, he will see the world that every person is greedy, and that's why they are fighting with them. That's why they have a fear from them. And if a person having a love in himself, he has having a compassion towards every being, he will see that all people are very good in his life. All we should respect them. We should love them. So the thing is, whatever thoughts going in our mind, we will see the other person like that. They too are like that. And even in Jainism, it's beautifully said that every soul has a capacity to become a god. It's not that only few person can become a god. Every soul has a capacity to become a god. And in the sutras, it is mentioned that there are 15 types of god. There are 15 ways for a being to become a god. And in that way, one is a Tirtha Siddh. A Jain can become a god. And another is a Tirtha Siddh. A non-Jain can also become a god. How they can become a god? After following these universal principles, non-violence and anikantvad and aparigraha, then they can become a Jain. So this religion is not for only the Jain people. It is for the universal, for everyone. These principles are not only related for religious life, these are related for environmental and global level too. Savve Pana Pihiyaye, so every living being loves its own life, and the life of every being is precious to it. So we all know that is explained in Acharang Bhashya. And the principle Parasprago Jivanam in Tattva Sutra, it is said that all life is interdependent. Like, for example, we need oxygen from plants, and plant needs CO2 from us. Tree needs birds, birds need trees. So all lives are interdependent, and it's a kind of web. And if something is disturbed in this web, everything is disturbed. So, for example, deforestation in the Amazon and other jungles leads to flooding, rising temperatures, and other climate disruption. So this is it's a very big web. And if there is a disturbance is created in this web, any part of the web, whole web is disturbed. So entire human race is one, and if we are to consider the world as a family, the concept of ahimsa should be taught to everyone. And it is said that some used to say that it is the concept of non-violence is impractical. It's not easy to follow. So in Jainism, it is clearly explained that there are two kinds of violence. That is necessary violence and unnecessary violence. Necessary violence for our doing our livelihood, fulfill our livelihood, we need to do some little bit violence. But we have to, what is it is said that how we can become a non-violent? We have to avoid the unnecessary violence. Like, for example, we need to fulfill our needs, and that for fulfilling our needs, we have to do something. But for fulfilling our desires, it's impossible. Mahatma Gandhi said that it is easy to fulfill the needs, but it is impossible to fulfill the desires. And that's why those people who are going towards to fulfill their desire is impossible, and that's why that leads to a big violence. And it is also said that when a soul can have a good and evil too. A person, when he is doing violence towards other, actually he is not violating other, and he is not violating the other beings. Actually, first he is violating himself. He is doing violence to himself, because without having negative thoughts, without having violence in his own thoughts, he can't kill anyone. So that's why violence, when we are doing with others, first we are doing with our own self, then only we can do with others. So the essence of Bhagwan Mahavira's teaching is that whatever you desire for yourself, you must desire for others. You don't like that someone should cheat you. That's why you should not cheat others. If you like that everyone should love me, then you should love everyone. So whatever you desire for yourself, you must desire for others. And this is the teaching of Jin Bhagwan. And Acharya Mahapragya, he also said that peace is not the silence of guns, but it's awakening of consciousness. It's not that those who are not using the guns, they are non-violent people. It must come in our head. It must come in our thoughts. If there is no transformation in our heart, the non-violence cannot come in our life. So this is the heart of non-violence. It's not that killing physically, they are avoiding the physical violence. We have to change the heart. So then only we can have a non-violence in our life. And another concept is Anekantvad. That is a very unique and core principle of Jainism. That is, it teaches that reality or truth has a multifacet. Every reality have a different perspective. And if we have to understand the reality completely, we have to understand everyone's perspective. Then only we can understand the complete reality. So, it's a global reality that the difference of opinion, everyone have a difference of opinion because everyone have their own background of thoughts, background of environmental, they had to have a cultural prejudices. But when we are stick to words only to it, then it creates a conflict. It's called absolutism. When we are stick to our own thoughts, like today we are seeing that a lot of wars are happening. Why they are happening? Why it is happening? Because it's due to that they are stick to their own thoughts that we want this only, and that's why conflict, war are happening. And actually he said that war exists because people wish it to exist. It's not that it's a very dilemma that people want a society which is free from violence, but they say that I will do violence in my life, I will follow violence in my life, but I want non-violent society. It's not possible. So that's why our Prashad said that Anekantvad is extension of Ahimsa in epistemology. And a very important part I want to just highlight that the Surat Spiritual Declaration, it was happened in the 2003 in the auspicious presence of Jain leader, that is Acharya Mahapragya ji, and in the ex-president of India, that is Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. And it was named as a unity of mind, and it was established in the Surat Declaration, and in the auspicious presence of 22 different religious leaders. And the main theme of this spiritual declaration was the 5 garland projects. They have made the 5 projects, that is celebration of inter-religious festivals, multi-religious projects. That was also important part. And Acharya Mahapragya ji did Ahimsa Yatra. He was not traveling. He was going from village to village, town to town, city to city by his own foot. And he was giving a message that how a person can become a non-violent. It's not that it's easy to say the theory of non-violence, but it is difficult to practice. And why one is doing violence? Because his basic needs, food, clothes, and shelter, it's not, these basic needs are not fulfilling. That's why he's doing violence. And that's why Acharya Mahapragya ji have started the training on non-violence. And in our university, Jain Vishwabharati Institute, we have an independent department named as the Non-Violence and Peace. And in that department, we are teaching the professions of non-violence, how one can earn his livelihood so that he can live his life. Then at that time, he will not need to do violence for fulfilling his basic needs. So there we are teaching the non-violent professions, and by learning them, they are just taking care of their family. So these are the 5 major garlands of the project of this spiritual declaration. And for fulfilling all these projects, they have made one organization named as FURIC, Foundation for Unity of Religious and Enlightened Citizenship. And it was launched by the President Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam on the birthday of His Holiness Acharya Mahapragya ji, 15 June 2004 at Rashtrapati Bhavan. And the 3 main levels, FURIC functions at the 3 main levels. At individual level, how a person can, individually he can become non-violent, how at societal level person can live free from poverty, and a collective level. We should be very open to all the concepts and principles of understanding other principles of all the religions. As I am a Jain nun, and I've renounced my life from past 20 years. I'm living as a Jain nun. But you will be astonished to see that in my university, I'm as a professor, and I'm a professor of world religion. And I'm teaching Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism, Islam, and I love to teach because all religions have a very beautiful concept. We have to understand the importance and beauty of all the religions, and then only we can understand our own religion more better way. And the third and the last concept, core principle is of Jainism, that is aparigraha. Today we are seeing that, as I already told, that the people want a world, people want a society, a globe free from war. But they are not ready to follow the non-violence in his own life. So it's what is the reason why he's not following non-violence in his life? Because the instinct of possession is behind his own thoughts. That's why he's not able to follow the non-violence, follow the aparigraha in his life. So sustainable living with aparigraha. So these are the common principles we all religion want. We want peace, we want compassion, we want unity, we want sustainable development. And this all can possible by following these things. And it is said that attachment is possession. If we having attachment towards the wealth, if we are having attachment towards this thing, that is called a possession. And if we will not have that attachment, then it will lead to the concept of aparigraha. And as I already told, environmental degradation. If we want to save our world from environmental degradation, concept of non-possession is very necessary. And so Tirthankar Mahavira stated, if I take anything that I don't need for my immediate use and keep it, it means I'm stealing it. And the same thing Jesus Christ also said, that don't cast pearl before swine. It means don't waste valuable things on those who don't appreciate its value. So in conclusion, as I want to say that the as the world celebrates 60 years of Nostra Aetate, the dialogue between Jainism, Catholicism, and all religions offers a profound vision for the future of interreligious cooperation. All traditions affirm that peace cannot be legislated merely through political treaties or economic systems. It must emerge from the transformation of human consciousness, grounded in reverence for life. The Jain principles of ahimsa, nikantvad, and aparigraha not only resonate with the Christian ideals of love, compassion, and humility, but also extend them into a universal ethic that embraces all living beings and the natural world. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Welcome back, everyone. My name is Mike Waltner. I'm with the CAICID Dialogue Center based in Lisbon, Portugal. I'm very happy to be with you for this next panel, where we'll be exploring, again, some of the religions that were not explicitly included in Nostra Aetate. We're going to be looking at some old traditions, in a sense of indigenous traditions of Africa, but also new religious movements as well. Certainly, I think these were outside of the scope of the initial framing of Nostra Aetate, and so I'm very much looking forward to hearing from both of our scholars today. And so we'll begin with Reverend Dr. Antoine de Podu Puda, who is a priest of the Gawa Diocese in Burkina Faso. He holds a master's degree in conflict resolution and a doctorate in missiology. He is a associate professor of systematic theology of mission at the Faculty of Missiology at the Pontifical Urbana University. He'll have 20 minutes for his presentation, and so I turn it over to you, Sue. He will be offering his presentation in Italian.
Thank you.
Buongiorno a tutti voi. Il mio intervento è intitolato le religioni tradizionali africane alla luce della Nostra Aetate, abbattere i muri e costruire ponti. Cercherò di sviluppare questo titolo cercando di rispondere a un quadruplice domanda. Prima domanda: qual è l'insegnamento che offre Nostra Aetate alla religione tradizionale africana? Seconda domanda: in che modo le sfide dei nuovi contesti potrebbero costituire anzi un kairos per il dialogo tra la religione tradizionale africana e il cristianesimo? Terza domanda: quale approccio fenomenologico e teologico delle religioni tradizionali africane per superare e sconfiggere l'ignoranza e l'indifferenza? Quarta e ultima domanda: come possiamo ripensare una conversazione reciprocamente costruttiva, in grado di abbattere i muri e costruire ponti tra le fedi in dialogo. Primo punto. Qual è l'insegnamento della Nostra Aetate per le religioni tradizionali africane? Il lettore attento della dichiarazione rimane colpito da un peccato per omissione del documento. Parlo di peccato per omissione perché si tratta del silenzio, direi, rumoroso sulle religioni tradizionali africane. Infatti, mentre il documento affronta in modo nitido la possibilità del dialogo con il buddismo, l'induismo e l'Islam, la religione ebraica anche, in nessuna parte della dichiarazione si parla della religione tradizionale africana. E questo silenzio non è insignificante, anzi parla e interroga. Sarà l'espressione tacita di una forma di indifferenza, di misconoscenza o addirittura di ignoranza della religione tradizionale africana, ovvero un segno di una mancanza di riconoscimento della cosiddetta religione come interlocutore a pieno titolo nel panorama mondiale delle religioni? Domanda. Comunque, questo silenzio assordante contrastava con le voci che spronavano i popoli africani a riscoprire e a rivendicare l'identità culturale e politica dell'Africa. Tra l'altro, il contesto storico era segnato dalla negritude di Léopold Sédar Senghor come riconoscimento dei valori culturali dell'Africa nera. Il contesto era segnato anche dalle valanghe delle indipendenze che risvegliavano il senso della dignità dei popoli africani, il bisogno di conoscere le proprie radici e di tornare alla propria cultura, affrancandosi dall'egemonia occidentale, non solo a livello politico e economico, ma anche culturale in vista dell'affermazione dell'identità africana. Basti ricordare la pubblicazione nel 1956 del volume storico Les prêtres noirs s'interrogent, che marcò una svolta nel dialogo tra le culture africane e il cristianesimo. La riscoperta della propria cultura crea un visibile disagio nella catechesi, nella liturgia e più in genere nel modo di comunicare la fede. Appare chiaramente la mancanza di adattamento culturale di un cristianesimo importato dall'Europa. Conseguenze, c'è l'esigenza di edificare la Chiesa locale, di promuovere l'inculturazione e il dialogo interreligioso. In tale contesto, quindi, questa omissione mi pare una pietra d'inciampo difficile da occultare. Tuttavia, si potrebbe affermare che il documento conciliare implicitamente e anonimamente includeva la religione tradizionale africana nel numero 2 intitolato Le diverse religioni, altre religioni oppure religioni non cristiane. Inoltre, vari passi della dichiarazione prescrivono indicazioni applicabili nei rapporti tra le religioni tradizionali africane e il cristianesimo. Tra l'altro, pur professando la singolarità di Cristo, via verità e vita, in cui gli uomini devono trovare la pienezza della vita religiosa e in cui Dio ha riconciliato con sé tutte le cose, il documento dice nel numero 2 che la Chiesa cattolica nulla rigetta di quanto è vero e santo in queste religioni. Essa considera con sincero rispetto quei modi di agire e di vivere, quei precetti e quelle dottrine che quantunque in molti punti differiscono da quanto essa stessa crede e propone. Tuttavia, non raramente riflettono un raggio di quella verità che illumina tutti gli uomini. Nostra Aetate numero 2, paragrafo 3. Oltre anche altre sottolineature molto significative, la recepzione dell'insegnamento magisteriale della Nostra Aetate ha conosciuto una evoluzione positiva come lo testimoniano certi documenti. Ne accenno 3. Allora, prima di tutto c'è la lettera apostolica di Paolo VI intitolata Africe Terrarum del 1967, il 29 ottobre precisamente. Nel numero 7 Paolo VI afferma: molti costumi e riti, un tempo considerati solamente bizzarri e primitivi, oggi, alla luce delle conoscenze etnologiche, si rivelano come elementi integranti di particolari sistemi sociali, degni di studio e di rispetto. Direi finalmente un accenno palese e esplicito alla religione tradizionale africana, che completa il numero 4 della lettera dicendo: la Chiesa considera con molto rispetto i valori morali e religiosi della tradizione africana, non solo per il loro significato, ma anche perché vede in essi la base provvidenziale sulla quale trasmettere il messaggio evangelico e avviare la costruzione della nuova società in Cristo. Il secondo documento, che cerca un po' di colmare il vuoto lasciato dalla Nostra Aetate, è il Sinodo speciale per l'Africa del 1994. I padri sinodali ribadiscono nel numero 67 l'invito a un dialogo sereno e prudente, in grado di assicurare l'assimilazione di valori positivi, visti come una preparazione al Vangelo, poiché contengono preziosi seminaverbi. Riprendendo più recentemente queste tematiche affrontate da Giovanni Paolo II nella Ecclesia in Africa, Papa Benedetto XVI, nel numero 36 dell'esortazione apostolica Africe Munus, esorta i ricercatori ad approfondire le loro conoscenze su questi riti. In sintesi, dal 1965 ad oggi c'è stato un riconoscimento positivo e progressivo della religione tradizionale africana come interlocutore imprescindibile nelle missioni in Africa. Tuttavia, alla luce delle sfide attuali, il percorso fatto rimane incompiuto. Secondo punto, dunque, le sfide dei nuovi contesti come un kairos per il dialogo tra il cristianesimo e le religioni tradizionali africane. A livello intraecclesiale si nota l'incremento del numero dei cattolici in Africa, secondo il recente report annuale dell'agenzia Fides. Bisogna però andare oltre una pastorale delle statistiche per interrogare la qualità e la profondità della fede nel Dio di Gesù Cristo. Sì, le nostre chiese africane gremite sono davvero e sempre costituite da credenti convertiti a Cristo. Quelli che hanno fatto un'esperienza pastorale o missionaria in comunità africane possono testimoniare che spesso tanti membri delle nostre assemblee ecclesiali sono allo stesso tempo cristiani diurni e fedelissimi notturni delle religioni tradizionali africane. Li vediamo proprio in piena giornata, sono dappertutto nella chiesa, però di notte vanno altrove. Non è un giudizio, è una cosa proprio da notare. Questo fatto è un sintomo di un disagio che interpella la Chiesa in Africa. Già nel 1967 Paolo VI, nella Africae Terrarum numero 14, faceva notare che l'africano, quando diviene cristiano, non rinnega se stesso, ma riprende gli antichi valori della tradizione in spirito e verità. E da parte sua, Benedetto XVI qualifica questo fenomeno come sfida della doppia appartenenza al cristianesimo e alle religioni tradizionali africane. Questo fatto problematizza la questione dell'essere autenticamente africano e autenticamente cristiano. In altri termini, è possibile esprimere, come diceva Jean Marchella, ma foi d'africain, la mia fede in quanto africano, senza la mia africanità, oppure è legittimo sognare un cristianesimo africano. Paolo VI, nel discorso ai vescovi africani a Kampala nel 1969, rispondeva a questo dilemma e diceva, cito, l'espressione, cioè il linguaggio, il modo di manifestare l'unica fede può essere molteplice e di conseguenza originale, in conformità con la lingua, lo stile, il temperamento, il genio, la cultura di chi professa questa unica fede. E sotto questo aspetto un pluralismo è legittimo, anzi auspicabile. In questo senso si può e si deve avere un cristianesimo africano. Fine citazione. Sulla stessa scia, Yves Congar direbbe che la fede cristiana, una volta inculturata, non può esistere che riespressa nelle forme proprie della concreta vita di un popolo. E quindi un cristianesimo africano è doveroso. Purtroppo, l'appropriazione e la concretizzazione di questo invito rimangono ancora ben timide, nonostante qualche progresso nell'inculturazione e nel dialogo interreligioso. Questa timidezza o addirittura reticenza nel confronto delle religioni tradizionali africane spiegherebbe la proliferazione di certi movimenti religiosi che rivendicano la doppia natura cristiana e africana del loro movimento. Sarà questa timidezza all'origine delle odierne apostasie? Inoltre, ci sono tantissimi cattolici che oggi difendono il ritorno e il ricorso alle sorgenti per riconnettersi con le proprie radici culturali e religiose. François Kabasele scriveva il suo libro intitolato Renouer avec ses racines, chemin d'inculturation. E senza rinunciare alla fede cattolica e nonostante le scomuniche dei pastori cattolici, non esitano a tornare alle pratiche tradizionali e ancestrali, traducendo così una nostalgia legittima delle origini. Questa è una parafrasi di Mircea Eliade che parla della nostalgia des origines. È davvero difficile per l'africano convertito a qualsiasi religione di rinunciare a certi aspetti delle proprie tradizioni, dato la porosità e la permeabilità dei confini tra il culto e la cultura. Queste sono le sfide a livello intraecclesiale. A livello extraecclesiale, ci sono dei segni dei tempi che ci spingono a un ripensamento della Nostra Aetate e possiamo segnalare la diffusione crescente del chemitismo, ossia l'insieme di questi movimenti religiosi che si riferiscono alla cultura e alla spiritualità della religione dell'antico Egitto. C'è anche in voga una forma di pseudo-panafricanismo. Parlo di pseudo-panafricanismo, non parlo del panafricanismo perché lo siamo, però un pseudo-panafricanismo virulente e aggressivo che attacca la Chiesa e accusa il cristianesimo di aver distrutto l'identità africana. E addirittura in Burkina Faso, il mio paese di origine, il 15 maggio è dichiarato giornata delle tradizioni e dei costumi per permettere ai seguaci della religione tradizionale africana di esprimere e celebrare di celebrare la loro fede come i cristiani celebrano Pasqua, Natale e come anche i musulmani Ramadan, Tabaski e così via. E quindi ci sono delle sfide che interpellano oggi, ecco, il dialogo, la nostra conversazione con le religioni tradizionali africane. Ero al secondo punto, mi rimangono 3 punti e ho 2 minuti. Provo ad atterrare, se riesco, senza fare un crash. Allora, il secondo punto era un po' qualche cenno fenomenologico e teologico delle religioni tradizionali africane. In sintesi, vorrei dire che la religione tradizionale africana proprio è una religione a titolo pieno e che non serve proprio solo caratterizzare questi di feticismo, di animismo oppure di antenatismo. Non è questo. La religione tradizionale africana è una religione che si può studiare sistematicamente e sistemicamente. E quindi serve uno studio approfondito per poter vedere un po' quali sono gli schemi e i valori di queste religioni per avviare un dialogo che aiuti ad abbattere i muri e a costruire ponti. Io, dalla mia esperienza, ho notato che in Africa ciò che paralizza, ciò che ostacola questo dialogo è che a volte certi pastori funzionano come un autista che guida i piedi sui freni, per fobia di relativismo, di sincretismo e anche di altre cose. Allora, avevo cercato un po' di studiare questi concetti, però visto che non c'è tempo, io ho detto che per poter andare avanti nel dialogo e nella riscrittura della Nostra Aetate bisogna vincere lo spettro del relativismo che, come dice Raymond Boudon, può essere positivo come negativo. Bisogna esorcizzare il fantasma del sincretismo, riconoscere anche e discernere i valori delle religioni tradizionali africane che non sono solo vie straordinarie oppure pietre d'attesa da scomparire, ma che fanno parte proprio dell'edificio ecclesiale e del cristianesimo. Mi fermo qua e vi ringrazio per il vostro ascolto.
Thank you, Reverend Dr. Puda. We now have Professora Stefania Palmisano. She is Associate Professor in Sociology of Religion at the University of Turin, Italy, where she teaches the sociology of religion and the sociology of organization. I'll leave it to her. You can see her bio in the documents here, but I'll leave it to her to have time for her presentation.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to speak in Italian, but if you want to ask questions in English, you are very welcome. So, il mio compito oggi il compito che mi è stato affidato è di parlare di un tema un po' eccentrico rispetto al cuore del convegno di oggi. E ringrazio gli organizzatori per questa sfida, ed è proprio una sfida. Parlerò di nuovi movimenti religiosi e lo farò con un approccio sociologico. Un'inchiesta giornalistica del 2024 rivela che in Italia il fenomeno delle sette sta crescendo rapidamente, con un aumento del 15% negli ultimi 5 anni. Il giornalista chiosa farne parte, è facile, uscirne può diventare un incubo. Ecco, di fronte alla retorica anticulto che storicamente ha imperversa sui media, la sociologia invita a diffidare di descrizioni così superficiali, così semplicistiche. Si tratta di prodotti mediatici ideati per suscitare l'allarme sociale e anche per bucare gli schermi. Gli studiosi di nuovi movimenti religiosi, ecco allora questa espressione che è più neutrale rispetto a quella di sette e che oggi va per la maggiore, gli studiosi appunto di nuovi movimenti religiosi lo sanno perché il giornalismo scandalistico è diffuso almeno a partire dagli anni 70, cioè da quando i nuovi movimenti religiosi hanno acquisito visibilità. I media da subito si sono concentrati sugli aspetti sensazionalistici, speculando su alcuni fatti tragici, sconvolgenti, accaduti alla fine degli anni 70 e gli anni 90 del XX secolo. Quindi questo è il periodo. Ne cito alcuni perché sono balzati agli onori della cronaca nera. Ricorderete il suicidio di massa del People's Temple in Guyana, il suicidio dell'Evans Gate, l'assedio della comunità davidiana di Waco, gli omicidi e i suicidi legati all'ordine del Tempio Solare, l'attacco alla metropolitana di Tokyo da parte di Aum Shinrikyo, e poi le bestie di Satana in Italia e più recentemente la strage del Movement for the Restoration of the Ten Commandments of God in Nigeria. Per contro, ormai da più di mezzo secolo, la sociologia cerca di compensare la banalità di questi reportage giornalistici attraverso indagini etnografiche. Queste indagini sono frutto di impegnative ricerche sul campo, volte a conoscere da vicino, a vivere con le persone che aderiscono a questi nuovi movimenti religiosi. E la letteratura, che sfata i sempreverdi pregiudizi rispetto a questi gruppi e ne offre un'immagine più equilibrata e molto ricca. E sotto traccia ci mette in guardia da due rischi piuttosto frequenti nell'approcciare i nuovi movimenti religiosi. Uno, l'idea che siano tutti uguali, e due, che siano dei movimenti sociali. Non è così. I nuovi movimenti religiosi sono gruppi religiosi, per cui per comprenderli bisogna guardare alle credenze, alle dottrine, ai simboli e ai riti che li caratterizzano. I nuovi movimenti non sono tutti uguali, per nulla. Ecco allora che cosa sono e perché sono diventati oggetto della sociologia. Vi dicevo, non sono per nulla tutti uguali. All'interno di questo grande calderone rientrano gruppi molto diversi gli uni dagli altri, che hanno storie, hanno organizzazione, hanno capitale culturale molto diverso. La Soka Gakkai, i Scientologi, i movimenti del potenziale umano, la Wicca, altre correnti del neopaganesimo. Pubblicherò a breve un libro sul paganesimo contemporaneo in Italia che fa proprio il punto sulla neostregheria oggi, che è particolarmente interessata da parte dei giovani. Bene, a fronte di questa ampia varietà, una sociologa inglese molto nota, Eileen Barker, ha stilato un elenco con i tratti più importanti dei nuovi movimenti religiosi. Anzitutto sono gruppi in cui si entra per adesione. Si dice che siano i giovani ad esserne attratti, ma ci sono invece gruppi che sono più interessanti per certe categorie di persone, le donne rispetto agli uomini, gli afroamericani rispetto ai bianchi e così via. C'è un leader carismatico e propongono una visione del mondo di tipo manicheo, per cui il bene verso il male, l'interno verso l'esterno, noi del gruppo rispetto al resto del mondo. Tuttavia, ciò che meglio qualifica questi gruppi, prima ancora delle caratteristiche interne, è che occupano una posizione marginale, che spesso incarna una forma di protesta. Le sette, storicamente, weberianamente, cito Weber come sociologa, si distaccano dalle chiese, quindi costituiscono una forma di protesta nei confronti delle tradizioni religiose da cui provengono. Tipicamente, ricorderete, la riforma protestante, Weber si sofferma su questa. Ma in senso più lato, questi nuovi movimenti religiosi sono forme di protesta rispetto alla cultura dominante. Hanno questo tratto controcorrente, controculturale. Ebbene, c'è un problema, quello della definizione. Oggi non si chiamano più setta. I sociologi sono concordi nell'usare questa espressione, nuovo movimento religioso, che sicuramente ha questo vantaggio della neutralità. Ed è stato accolto non solo dagli studiosi, ma anche dagli stessi soggetti in studio. Tuttavia, questo termine, nuovo movimento religioso, non è esente da critiche. La prima critica riguarda il concetto di novità. Sono nuovi? Rispetto a che cosa? Fino a quando saranno nuovi? Gli studiosi hanno, semplificando molto, individuato due criteri per deciderne la novità. Anzitutto quello storico. Molti hanno individuato nella Seconda Guerra Mondiale uno spartiacque cronologico, quindi i nuovi movimenti religiosi sono nati in Occidente dopo la Seconda Guerra Mondiale. Altri autori preferiscono collocarli un po' più tardi, negli anni 60-70, enfatizzando l'influenza che ha avuto su di essi la grande controcultura, o meglio, che hanno avuto le grandi controculture di quel ventennio. Va sottolineato però che il criterio storico è puramente convenzionale, del resto non tutti i nuovi movimenti religiosi sono nuovi allo stesso modo. Pensate ai testimoni di Geova, pensate alla Chiesa di Gesù Cristo dei Santi e degli ultimi giorni, quelli che convenzionalmente chiamiamo erroneamente i mormoni. Ebbene, questi hanno una consolidata tradizione risalente alla seconda metà dell'Ottocento, quindi quasi un secolo prima della data che per convenzione segna la nascita dei nuovi movimenti religiosi. Quindi, proprio per questa ragione, gli studiosi hanno anche avanzato la proposta di distinguere fra nuovi movimenti religiosi e poi, proprio i più recenti, nuovi movimenti religiosi. E poi c'è l'altro criterio, quello geografico. Ci sono religioni che vantano una storia millenaria in alcuni paesi e sono nuovi in altro. Faccio soltanto un esempio molto banale per l'esempio in sé, cioè il buddismo zen, che è una religione antica, si è osservata nei suoi paesi d'origine, ma che a metà del secolo scorso si diffonde in Occidente grazie all'immigrazione di maestri spirituali che recano con sé in Europa e negli Stati Uniti le filosofie dell'Estremo Oriente. Ebbene, l'ultimo tema che ha impegnato i sociologi è quello della classificazione dei nuovi movimenti religiosi. Non mi soffermo molto perché vorrei dedicare gli ultimi minuti della mia presentazione a un caso studio di cui mi sono occupata per 20 anni, quello della comunità di Damanhur. Quindi userò questa classificazione per arrivare ad elaborare, a comunicare con voi, a condividere con voi alcune intuizioni sociologiche che poi ho usato per studiare alcuni nuovi movimenti religiosi. Allora, questa che vediamo è la tipologia di Roy Wallis sulle collettività religiose. Come molte tipologie nate negli anni 70, anche questa si fonda sulla distinzione weberiana tra chiesa e setta. La setta è un'organizzazione che si distacca dalla Chiesa e nella quale si entra per adesione volontaria. Abbiamo anche il culto, lo vedete, il culto, a differenza della setta, è più libero. La setta, dicono gli studiosi, è epistemologicamente totalitaria, cioè che vuol dire che ha dei dogmi fissi, rigidi codici di comportamento, rituali definiti. I culti, a differenza delle sette, invece, non prevedono un'appartenenza esclusiva, cioè sono più individualisti. Significa che i membri di un culto godono di un certo grado di libertà nella ricerca della propria salvezza. E il mantra che si applica in questi casi è: se funziona per me, allora è valido. E quindi nell'ambiente cultuale è facile trovare persone che abbinano, mettono insieme proposte diverse. Allora, questo esercizio classificatorio consente di mettere in evidenza molti insegnamenti della sociologia della religione. Per brevità ne cito soltanto uno, e cioè la collettività religiosa può assumere forme diverse nella sua storia. Una setta può crescere e acquisire legittimazione al punto da approssimarsi alla Chiesa, oppure può continuare a essere percepita come deviante e allora diventa un culto, ma allo stesso modo un culto può nel tempo diventare più simile alla setta. Allora, perché ho fatto questa introduzione? Perché negli ultimi minuti a mia disposizione vorrei soffermarmi su un caso studio. Vi dicevo, il caso della comunità magico-esoterica di Damanhur, è situata in Val Chiusella, in Piemonte, non lontano da Torino, dove vivo e insegno, e ho dedicato questa realtà 20 anni di studio. In 50 anni di storia, e la vedrete Damanhur perché fra poco vi mostrerò un breve video che ho contribuito a realizzare, in 50 anni di storia questa comunità è diventata da quella che i sociologi definivano setta, con delle caratteristiche davvero settarie, e quindi un'appartenenza molto netta, avida, incapsulata, a quella che oggi chiameremo una comunità spirituale, per dire soltanto ok. Quindi ho tempo di raccontarvi perché, se all'inizio Damanhur era considerata e anche sociologicamente confermata come setta, oggi non possiamo più definirla tale. In 50 anni di storia la comunità è totalmente cambiata. All'inizio si entrava a Damanhur e si abbandonava del tutto i rapporti, si abbandonavano completamente i rapporti con il mondo circostante. Si prestava giuramento alla divinità di riferimento di Damanhur, nelle mani del leader capo carismatico Falco Tarastaco, morto nel 2013, e si viveva a Damanhur, frequentando il corso di meditazione, un corso che era obbligatorio, si poteva frequentare una sola volta nella vita e, come dico ai miei studenti, se si arrivava in ritardo, fine, non si poteva più recuperarlo. Quindi vorrei introdurlo anche per gli studenti del mio corso. Quindi una volta nella vita e poi mai più. Oggi Damanhur è una realtà completamente diversa. Si è posizionata come ecovillaggio, quindi l'eredità magico-esoterica non è scomparsa, ma non è più il primo elemento che la caratterizza. Le persone possono essere damanhuriane vivendo in qualsiasi punto del mondo e non più vivendo soltanto a Damanhur nelle case della comunità. Prima, per essere damanhuriano, bisognava abitare le case comuni della comunità. Oggi non è più così. Si può essere damanhuriani vivendo da soli, vivendo con la propria famiglia, vivendo in qualsiasi parte del mondo. Molti altri sono i cambiamenti che hanno caratterizzato la comunità, ci ho dedicato vari libri. Questo mostra però che cosa? Che le sette che nascono tali non rimangono così in eterno. Nel mondo post-pandemico, globale, ipertecnologico, Anche i nuovi movimenti religiosi sono cambiati, per cui abbiamo bisogno di categorie analitiche diverse. Sempre più queste diventano comunità spirituali molto più aperte, diventano addirittura stili di vita, diventano passepartout spirituali che con le loro parole coltivano una spiritualità che necessita di essere tenuta in vitro non per rimanere segreta, come invece avveniva all'inizio, ma al contrario per essere potenziata, conservata, prima di essere diffusa nel mondo. Benissimo, quindi abbiamo il tempo per il video. Questo video è stato un trailer di un episodio che oggi è presente su Amazon Prime. È un documentario che è stato realizzato dalla Media Travel Agency e dall'Università di Torino dove lavoro, per cui siamo stati consulenti. E questo è stato il trailer iniziale. Se qualcuno è interessato può guardare su Amazon Prime il documentario intitolato Inside Damanhur. Prego.
I have to say, but I was missing something. I was missing the sense of what is going on here. This is everything. So I turned on the TV and there was this woman speaking about a man, very gentle, with these two beautiful eyes, very magnetic eyes.
I can say I was looking for a spiritual path, but as I knew Damanhur, I was very involved in this idea.
But I had no idea when I came that it was a very complex reality. I just thought it was an eco-community where people were growing vegetables and that was it.
Because we were creating something that before didn't exist and then that nobody could imagine.
I really felt that there was something that I wasn't seeing. You know, there were secrets or things that I couldn't take a part of. I really loved to feel, you know, to be a part of this big group. It's the most amazing thing in the world to live together with other people and share the same mission for the world.
So I really felt that I wanted to do something important for the world and in the world and do that together with other people and really create a new way of living.